Hey, this is Sabrina Monarch bringing you the astrology forecast for April 6th to April 12th, 2022. Please like this video, leave a comment at some point and let me know how you're doing or what resonates with you, and do subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that you get notified when new videos come out. I am about to go on vacation. It's my birthday, April 6th. And I am a fucking Aries, okay? Because everyone forgets. But I actually just wrote this forecast this morning and I am getting the video done today. So I'm in this like little mini tornado of getting a ton of stuff done and cleaning and like getting ready for the trip. And got this video in it. So I'm really excited to be able to do that so that I'm here on YouTube with you all this week. But something that came over me writing this week's forecast was a sense of possibility. I was excited about these Aries Aquarius sextiles that we have that I'll get into more detail about. Sextiles being a harmonious 60-degree aspect that are subtle enough to overlook. Harmonious aspects don't hit us in the face, but their energy is worth actively tuning into. So that was kind of the spirit that I felt in this week's forecast, is like, let's look at some possibilities and lean into them. Aquarius sees things at a bird's eye view, a systems perspective, a paradigmatic perspective, an ecosystem. Aquarius is genius. Aries is an emergent principle, and it's about birth and initiating, taking a step out, taking a leap, making a choice, like action. Within a system, a given reality matrix or ecosystem, there's always emergence. Aries season is a time definitely to tune into this new life, this emergent quality. It often reaches us through instinct. So that thing stirring within us that wants to be expressed outwardly. The gift of Aquarius and Aries harmonizing is a sense that our instinctual sparks of creative direction are actually part of a greater network. Astrology is a beautiful living meditation on this because the natal chart reveals a moment of the cosmos, which we are throughout our lifetimes a walking emanation of. We are an individual imprint of the whole universe. At a day-to-day, moment-to-moment level, Aries Aquarius is like being a free agent. So the Aries Aquarius like combination. It's being tuned into a system of consciousness that inspires our sense of movement, possibility, and willingness to experiment and try new things. For me, the joy of knowing my natal chart intimately, like cyclically, having it unfold and reveal itself to me month after month, year after year. The adventure of getting to go live it out as a complex, unfolding journey of awakening is like my lifeblood. It's my, that French word that I know how to write, but probably can't pronounce. So like joie de vivre, but you know what I'm talking about. I would love to share this language and system with you in my upcoming Evolutionary Astrology Intensive. It'll be the 10th run of this course. It's been several years that I've been offering this and fine-tuning it and bringing together groups of people to go into this soulful vein of astrology. We're beginning again in a matter of weeks. We begin May 2nd. To update my notes here. Okay. Evolutionary astrology allows us to gain a narrative of our soul's evolution, who we are at a soul level, what we have been developing in prior lives, and the way this current lifetime is the cutting edge of our soul's evolution, what is being asked of us, and what opportunities are available to us. So this has been kind of a path, not kind of, I mean, it's the path that I've been walking for years of knowing myself as a soul, like really cultivating a relationship with my soul, that being within me who has been here in prior lives and will incarnate again, and has incarnated into this particular body, this particular set of circumstances, challenges, gifts. And as I walk through the constant enchanted storybook, choose your own adventure of my life, it's that question of like, why these challenges? Like, how is this alchemy for me at a soul level? So that's how I lean into the various impasses or crossroads that I find myself at. But it's also a very creative thing. Like when I see an open road before me, or when I feel into, the things that I love doing and the desires that I have, and the kind of life strategy of how can I amplify, my skill sets, and lean into, the coded message, the coded messaging of my desire nature, and to more deeply empathize with it, right? And to kind of exhaust desires that aren't in the highest alignment, as well as to really lean into these desires that are about the soul's unfolding. So it's become not just a way that I like say understand myself or contextualize myself. It's been a map for how I lean into life with a more engaged vitality and adventurousness. That's a spirit that I bring to astrology and to teaching it. And I've been growing up alongside the school, this school of evolutionary astrology, finding it when I was 21 after, 10 years of being into astrology kind of on my own. And I offer it as something that's undeniably close to my heart. For those of you whose moment it is now to jump on the wave of this epic wisdom school, I'm so excited to meet you and get to know you over the next 5 months. So you can learn more and enroll in the Evolutionary Astrology Intensive in the link below. It'll include student testimonials. It is a live course, and it consists of pre-recorded modules that you can come back to forever, and then weekly live calls where we discuss the material and get to know each other, and it culminates in reading our own charts together. So I'm going to skip the normal kind of set of announcements. You can find my mailing list linked below as well. And my reading books are open. You can find the link for that, as well as for in-person Portland readings below as well. But I will just start to get into our week. So April 7th, Mercury in 22 degrees of Aries will sextile Saturn in 22 degrees of Aquarius, 5:37 a.m. So this is our Pacific time. This is our first of the the first of the Aries Aquarius sextiles that I was tuning into this week. Saturn, Mars, and Juno are traveling together in Aquarius, while Mercury closely approaches a conjunction to asteroid Eros in Aries, which I love. Eros has been something that I've been doing research on. And we're going to have this beautiful like Mercury Eros conjunction throughout the week. And I've been doing this like decanic research as well. I'm tuning into the third decan of Aries. This face of Aries is actually associated with Eros. The image for it from 36 Faces by Austin Coppock is a flaming rose, or a rose on fire. And it's about these kind of creative, larger than life kind of celebratory moments. And what is Eros but the most profound sensation? So there's a possibility with this transit of artistry and inventiveness, to be inspired with our vision within the parameters of what is available to us, Saturn, right? The limitations of reality. And there is a dimension of the mind that is prone to being bothered, wanting more, wanting something other than what is, right? Like that, just track that thread of consciousness, like when you're in a space, how your mind is somewhere else, wanting to be somewhere else, wanting the situation to be different, the antithesis of presence, essentially. But then there is another dimension of the mind that, can be deeply present. And if following the assignment to find inspiration in the immediate environment, it will, right? Like the sunlight coming in through the leaves, the shape that the shadow of the leaves from the window makes in the room, these kind of artistic touches of the environment that are there at any moment. This is like carrying a camera around and seeing the world in possible photographs, or being a writer who means to contextualize their experience as a narrator in the midst of something grand happening, even if that grandness must be discovered through perception and is not immediately obvious. You know, it's the remedy for boredom, you know, because boredom can be a matter of perception. And we might think that we need something more, something else. Not that it's, you know, it's okay to strive, but what I'm speaking of is tuning into kind of the majestic quality of what already is here right in front of us. And this is a possibility of inventing vision within what already exists. I love to do this as a kind of daily practice. Like if I'm sitting down and thinking about my day, the day that I've had, perhaps at the end of the day, I can totally write it off and take it for granted and just, you know, whatever, it's another day. Or if I really think about it, it was a whole cinematic, profound, multifaceted, multidimensional adventure with depth and beauty, right? And that's a matter of taking the time, Saturn, to have that vision and to make connections. And this is something that I really feel from my practice as a writer in some sense, because being in the kind of, you know, putting on the hat of the writer taught me to look around for inspiration, that there's always something interesting happening if we tune into it. Success and Saturn are connected in the way that Saturn is a reality principle. Saturn relates to cause and effect, and success is a capacity to navigate reality as it is. While people can certainly have limited or incorrect visions of what reality is or what's possible within reality, and then situate themselves within those ghastly limitations, the capacity to submit to, you know, so despite that, the capacity to submit to limitation and work within limitation is part of what breeds success, right? In the same way of the mind, you know, not being present and being like, fuck these circumstances, I wish I was somewhere else. People can do that with reality, where they're just like, this isn't ideal, I wish it was different, like, let me just not do anything, as opposed to that kind of grounded, like, well, this is what is available to me. So how do I lean into the material that, you know, is before me? Both Aquarius and Aries would have some propensity for bending conventional rules and finding something that is effectual in a less conditioned or expected way. So we have this, you know, pioneering emergent Aries. So maybe the vision that we have is something that doesn't exist yet, for example. And so to find out how it works within reality would be, you know, playing with the emergent field, the field of spontaneity, like an inventor who's like working to kind of create something, right? That they're trying to figure out, like it's a puzzle or it's a riddle. They're still working within reality because they're ultimately looking for the invention to work, right? But the way that they get there is also an invention. Really, same thing goes for entrepreneurial pursuits, because one might not know how to get a business off the ground because they've never done it before, but that's what they know they want to do instinctually, so they figure it out, right? Whatever the goal or the ambition, the yearning, the desire, the motive is, it's that sense of, if there's a will, there's a way. And I think that'll come up later too, given that we also have a Pallas Athena Cazimi, but let me not skip ahead. So this week poses an opportunity to be playful about making moves or being creative within the range of what is currently available to us. While someone might dream about what they would do 5 years down the road, or if some permissioning variable came to pass, what about thinking about something exciting we have access to initiate now, and then do it? This is a way that vision can become grounded and woven into what we call reality. April 8th, Jupiter in 23 degrees of Pisces will sextile the North Node in Taurus and trine the South Node in Scorpio. So the lunar nodes in Scorpio and Taurus are, bringing up in the collective psyche all of these Taurus Scorpio themes like resources and exchange of resources, scarcity versus abundance, and magnetism, becoming more than what we are through merging with something beyond us, and the power dynamics that go into that. And the potential for extractive behavior. So when we want something from a situation or from another person, how integral are we about energy exchange, or where do we have those kind of undercurrent hooks where we're trying to like get something, right? And so Scorpio Taurus is really that kind of like, ideally, when we feel worthy, we feel well resourced, in whatever way you want to think about resource, like we feel like self-possessed. Then when we go into exchange with another person who might have something that we don't have, and we might have something that they don't have, there can be a way that we create a mutually enhancing field. But when there's this moth to the flame energy and seeing someone as the portal for something that we don't have access to and we need it so badly, like people's shadowy kind of tendencies can come out in that kind of clinging, extractive, hooky kind of energy with the Taurus Scorpio axis. There's things around like relationship with the body and with sexuality, self-esteem, psychological complexes, receptivity, and desire. So some hot and steamy and heavy things on this Taurus Scorpio axis, which is the kind of, it says something about kind of the collective psyche at the moment, right? These are loaded. And then with Jupiter and Pisces harmoniously aspecting both nodes, that portends that, Jupiter in Pisces is offering something that is very harmoniously beneficial to the collective psyche's evolution, right? So when I was tuning into that, I felt like there may be some spiritual expansion, insight, wisdom, or spiritual healing that can soften some of the sharp edges that we're currently experiencing related to the nodal axis. Right? Like, that kind of space, perhaps where you want something so badly it hurts. Oh my God, I have to plug in my computer before it dies. Hold on. I'm gonna pause it. Okay, so I was saying, when you want something so badly that it hurts, like that it's almost kind of like you feel twisted around the desire. And so there's not receptivity there, right? Like it's like the channel to receive that which you desire is this like wrung out kind of like rag energy, like there's a strain there. And then when that softens, say we have like a Pisces brings a kind of dissolving, healing, bigger picture kind of energy, that we might have an experience that feels corrective, or we receive something that we've longed for. And all of that kind of like anguish, twisted energy just kind of softens and kind of like sloughs off. And there's a sense of like, I was worthy all along, or like it was okay to desire this. And there's a sense of healing around a place that has been tense. So we might consider the ways that both Taurus and Scorpio can get tunnel vision, like our favorite food we want to eat every day, or the person who is the object of our fascination and obsession, that I only want you and I can't think about anything else. There's a space where this kind of sensual, intimate, devouring energy is hot, and also a space where it gets twisted, painful, fraught with jealousy or disempowerment. Pisces, on the other hand, dissolves and diffuses, softens and blurs things by nature. There may be some opportunity to, with good fortune, Jupiter and Pisces. So whether that's an experience that feels corrective or an insight that feels corrective and integrating, that some of these experiences might soften our grip on places we've become fixated, and in so doing, help us to see more of the bigger picture than we'd previously allowed ourselves to even be receptive to. Softening one's grip does not mean foregoing loyalty or focus, but it does give our loyalty and focus more space to breathe. It creates more space to be in right relationship, bonded by choice rather than chains. I would not be surprised if Mercury is conjunct my sun right now. I feel like just so, so mercurial and so like, yeah, in that tornado of getting ready for this trip. But I'm here. Okay, so then we have Mercury in 25 degrees of Aries sextile Mars and 25 degrees of Aquarius. And on April 10th, Mercury in 28 degrees of Aries will square Pluto in 28 degrees of Capricorn. So we have Mercury quickly going through this harmonious sextile to Mars and then into a square with Pluto. And I'm going to delineate both at the same time. So it's said in modern astrology that Pluto is a higher octave of Mars. Mars can relate to motivation and will, while Pluto is the seat of our soul's motivation and desire nature. Pluto is the realm of the unconscious, and it is in this layer that we often experience blockages to our conscious will's modus operandi. We think we want something, but another part of us is repelled or resistant to that path. Or it could be the other way around. We're fucking clear at a soul level, you know, what our truth is, but our ego and personality has to adjust to that. Like those kind of, like, this is what I'm meant to do, like the kind of nauseating part of like true desire. To align our conscious direction in life at a personality layer with the deeper desires and motivations of the soul is a type of power, right? Like imagine your will being aligned with your deeper soul and unconscious. This is a lot of what I feel like coaching and personal development even will point us to, is that sense of being aligned internally so that we can effectually move toward our goals in life instead of being in a state of inner turmoil and blocking ourselves. You know, the soul, however, often loves its complex dramas. I love it about the soul too. And there is growth that comes from our inner wrestling in a time when we are ready to be clear about what we desire and how we are willing to apply ourselves, right? Like I really think about this like the Shakespearean like stage and an actor going off into a soliloquy where like the scene has paused and the actor is like in the spotlight and philosophizing about the impasse or the crossroads that they're in. And that can be super soulful, to have those kind of moments of cross-wired kind of motivations and desires and not be sure which choice to make or something like that. But I see that as kind of like a moment in the cycle, not necessarily a place to live all of the time. So there's a way that the soul kind of has this drive for evolution. And so with the conflicts that it faces, it will move through them, adapt, alchemize, so that what was once the actor stepped off into that soliloquy and like not being sure what to do, the download, the clarity comes through and the situation has been alchemized and there's a trajectory of what to let go of, what to move toward, you know, something gets put into motion. So we have Mercury, the messenger, contacting Mars and then Pluto shortly after. At a mundane level, this brings a charge and dynamism to conversations. Mercury-Mars contacts relate to eagerness to speak and some proneness to debate and conflict. Except since this Mercury-Mars contact is harmonious, the sextile, there may simply be an animated and engaged quality to communications at this time. Mercury-Mars kind of has a field of like everyone wanting to talk at once and people interrupting each other. But the harmonious aspect could be more like, you know, eager talking, eager listening, like a sense of like, you know, we're game for this conversation, like it's lit, we're here. As opposed to like verbal battle, right? But then Mercury square Pluto, however, can relate to some more confrontational quality around Mercury and Aries, who's kind of experimentally naming and putting things out there. But what it's naming is something that has been brewing or has a deeper root, Pluto and Capricorn. There may be a sense of not being able or willing to conceal something to ourselves or to others. Like there's an exposure side of like Pluto Mercury. And even definitely a discernment with exposure. Sometimes exposure is violent and it's like, why like cause that pain to oneself? Like when we overshare at a place that's deeply out of range for us, or we expose someone else, especially with Capricorn, that kind of like punitive quality of like, it's some way to bring accountability. Mercury, Pluto could speak to discernment around exposure, but then also the sense of, okay, if something is boiling beneath the surface, if there is kind of a situation where people aren't on the same page or something's been left unsaid, that sense of it emerging to the surface with Mercury and Aries. We might consider what motivated us toward concealment in the first place, if there was something we weren't willing to own up to yet, if we were afraid of change, or what it was that created this sticky impasse in the first place. In places where communications have historically gone smoother or been kept on top of, where there is foundation, trust, etc., developments may be occurring that feel rich, but not necessarily as challenging as, of course, the places where things have been left unsaid. And there's more of that flashpoint energy. As a general point of tension, Mercury in Aries relates to emergence, and it is doing so in relationship with something structural, embedded, and deep, Pluto and Capricorn. Sometimes polarization occurs here, and the desire for severance is, well, severe. At a deeper level, sometimes we can see how the past and all of its conditions have been a kind of ancestor, that our current emergence or invention has influences from the past, even if negative or unfortunate influences have been alchemized for new life to occur. I think, something that comes to mind is like the memoir, like Mercury in Aries, the like self-narrative, self-awareness in relationship to one's history, Pluto and Capricorn, and the way that writing personal biography kind of forces us to confront the reality of how we tell our story, where we're telling our story with that kind of like sad violin music playing effect. And we're like, wait, I actually like don't want to paint myself that way, or like maybe I was victorious in this way, or this situation did draw out this like heroic quality of me, and like what about that? Like there's all these different ways that we can have an angle with Mercury. Like it's like the journalist energy of like how many different ways can you tell a story related to the deep history that we're drawing from and have alchemized in our own emergent beings. And then Mercury enters Taurus after this, Mars, then Pluto contact. And this happens at 7:09 a.m., really just hours after the Mercury-Pluto square. So Mercury is going to be in Taurus until April 29th. Mercury in Taurus, like reminding me to chill out and ground, okay? Mercury in Taurus can be an expansion of sensation. With attention, one can tune into and magnify the sensations of a part of the body. I'll never forget, this classmate that I had one time in like a creative writing class, but she told me that sometimes just for fun, she bounces around different points of her body just to feel what they feel like she's going to feel her knee and then feel her toe, and not like touching them, but just like in her awareness, like tuning into the sensation that's emanating from her knee. And after she told me that, I tried it, and I had this like really interesting awareness like come out of that I don't think I'd ever kind of cognitively had such a illumination about, but that there's so much sensation happening in the body or available in the body at any given time. And I suspect, it's probably a thing that the brain filters out a lot of the sensation. Yet if you tune into it, like How does my thigh feel right now? And just feel and like give some space. You'll start to feel that kind of like, whatever's present for you there. Then there's also the possibility of tuning into a part of the body that we really don't like have a lot of sensation from normally. Like, what do my kidneys feel like? And this connection can be formed, my like third eye is tingling. This connection can be formed with imagination, right? So someone who can't particularly immediately feel a particular organ might imagine they do many times over until the sensation begins to appear. Mercury relates to mapping, and Taurus relates to our embodiment and sensory impressions, right? So if you were to go to this like whole new landscape that's never been mapped, I don't know how that works, how someone would go map a forest that hasn't been mapped. But let's take that metaphor over to like sensation in the body. It's like if there's not a mind cervix connection, then that's not a mapping point. But if that connection has been built through attention and presence, then that's a new place that we have mapping with. Mercury also relates to mediators. I think, people that build bridges, the messenger conveying. I think of body workers who have shown me anatomical drawings and explained to me how a pain I'm experiencing in one place of my body is connected to this other muscle group somewhere else, and given me exercises and stretches to alleviate that on my own. While this knowledge became a resource of my own, so Taurus kind of resource eventually, it was offered through an exchange originally, a mercurial conveyance. Body intelligence is highlighted with Mercury and Taurus. And I'd offer, like, don't feel like you have to get there all on your own. There are many Mercury and Taurus messengers holding specialized keys of knowledge to various body systems, gross and subtle. Like, I really loved the last personal trainer I worked with was so amazing. And really, now I'm working out by myself because she shifted career paths, career offerings, but she showed me these like anatomical drawings and like really helped me form like so much of a deeper register of like what muscle groups are being activated from what exercises. And so now when I'm like exercising, I can feel things light up within me that I didn't know, like didn't have that same experience before I saw those maps and those anatomical drawings and got walked through it by someone who is really skillful and adept. And then I would just counter this message as well in terms of like the exchange of information. That one thing Mercury and Taurus offers is a possibility for self-possession and simultaneous receptivity, which is to say navigating the dynamic of talking with an expert with rarefied knowledge, which is a Mercury thing, receptive to the information and how it could be integrated at a personal level without assigning one's sovereignty unduly over to the expert, right? Like, I think a lot of people have the experience of a doctor telling them something super disempowering and they don't listen to it, like they find another path and have a better experience. So experts also have their way of navigating these types of power dynamics and may have their own practices and language to encourage the self-possession of others. For me, when it comes to astrology readings, it's so much a dynamic of like collaboration. Like I have studied these symbols and have things to offer, but your own life and experience. So let's be in dialogue about it and come up with something together. Then April 11th, Saturn in 22 degrees of Aquarius will square the lunar nodes in 22 degrees of Scorpio, 22 degrees of Taurus. And for that, I would just offer that I've shared a recent podcast episode about Saturn square the nodes through the vantage point of the proliferations of scams in the zeitgeist. So a Saturn crisis in the marketplace, Taurus, Scorpio, Not to mention Saturn is in the third decan of Aquarius, which relates to the Seven of Swords, which relates to thievery and trickery and deceit and whatnot. So really kind of went in on that in relationship to kind of this proliferation of Instagram scams. Like if you didn't know already, I have several impersonator accounts. Many astrologers, tarot readers, witches, adjacent practitioners have impersonators on Instagram who are kind of targeting their audiences and trying to sell them readings. So, please be mindful of that. It's these shoddy kind of Instagrams that appear overnight with like 30 to 50 photos that were all posted in one day, stolen from the original's Instagram. Then they drop into your DMs and with some ridiculous message about how they feel drawn to your energy and want to offer you a reading and whatever. So please be mindful of that. But I did record a podcast about it and went into the archetypal layer of it beyond the surface annoyance. So I'm happy to be offering that. So I'll leave the link for that podcast episode of Magic of the Spheres in the links, the notes. And then we have, lastly, on April 11th, Sun in 22 degrees of Aries conjunct Pallas Athena in 22 degrees of Aries at 7:49 p.m. Pacific. The moon in Leo will trine the Sun in Athena during this conjunction, which I love. I feel like that's just like an extra boost in terms of both the Sun and Athena relate to creativity. The Sun and Athena are applying toward a square with Pluto and Capricorn as well. I've really grown to love the Sun Kazimis. Well, Kazimi is just when any planet is conjunct the Sun. I think I take liberties when I call any outer planet or an asteroid conjunct the Sun a Kazimi. That might not be like a standard within traditional astrology, but I take that liberty. But I notice when the Sun is exactly conjunct any planet, any asteroid, that it really is just this glorious moment of like a window being offered to understanding that other planet that the Sun is illuminating, as well as like the Sun's light. So the very energy of illumination itself taking on the quality of that which the Sun is conjunct. So it's been really dazzling, like to witness Kazimis. So I hope that in sharing this information about the Pallas Athena Kazimi, that it might offer a window for you as well. Pallas Athena is an asteroid that relates to strategic and creative intelligence. Pallas Athena is both androgynous. She contains many feminine and masculine qualities kind of intertwined, but she's also distinctly a feminine principle. She's one of the asteroid goddesses. Her fertility is expressed through the head. She literally gives birth to manifestations through visionary and creative intelligence. Her capacity for executing plans with accuracy comes from an ability to see her hitting her target with her inner eye. Sometimes we're doing Pallas Athena stuff very passively, like we're already visualizing that something can't work out, or one of the visualizations for Pallas Athena, like she does relate to some conflict that we might feel between our creative pursuits and our career and our love life, especially within the feminine consciousness in terms of like the career woman who's like single and, versus like the woman who's like in a relationship and has a family life, but isn't, doing her like entrepreneurial stuff or whatever. That sense that those things are somehow separate paths and it's hard to like say have it all. And, it could also be the person who's like an artist or they're writing something or they're a musician and it feels like at odds with having availability to kind of really invest creatively in relationship. And so Athena, I feel like she gave me this meditation that's super simple. And I love like energy visualizations, but I'll just offer that it was seeing relationships as like one circle a little circle, and career as this other circle, creative pursuits, right? And so having these two circles and then just having them come together in my inner eye. So not needing to know how it's going to work or have like the mental download about that, but just to like, as a magical practice internally in my inner eye, stop making these two things separate, because my career and my creative pursuits matter a lot to me. And my, interest in love and the pursuit of ultimate happiness, 10 of Cups energy, is also deeply important to me. And so why would I hold on to a construct that those two things are at odds with each other? That is a creative visualization that I don't care to have, right? So to just bring them together and bring them into this kind of inner marriage. And you can do that in tandem with doing practical things to move toward goals. Visualization, I think, is like having the wind at your sails, just like having the kind of spiritual, imaginative, visualized energy in alignment with your pursuits. So with the sun infusing Athena and Athena infusing the sun, there could be an experience of receiving an illumination around something we want to create, or an illumination around our own confidence that we can indeed go after what we want in an Aries fashion, just going for it. But there's an element here, importantly, of seeing it internally, like knowing that we're going to win, right? Like seeing our own success or seeing our own trajectory with the confidence that we find in the sign of Aries. So thank you so much for tuning into this forecast. I'm glad I was able to sit down to share this. And if you haven't already, please like this video. Don't leave without leaving a comment to let me know how you're doing and how this resonated with you. And I hope that you have a beautiful week.